Let's address the elephant in the room. I look different. I got a couple extra pounds on me. I got these cool little T-Rex arms. And during the course of this presentation, if you listen closely, you'll hear the hint of my Canadian accent, especially if I'm talking about my roof with a boot on it. But I like being different. To be honest, everything in my life has not been by the book. For example, fun fact, I played college football. But whereas most players were recruited out of high school, I was cut in high school. But my senior year of university, I walked on and earned a spot as a defensive end for the University of Toronto. Thank you. It was different, but I got the job done. And we're talking about jobs. It's a perfect entry into my life in student affairs. Because you see, when I was done playing college football, I wanted to coach college football. And to pay those bills, I needed to work. And student affairs was the perfect place for me to land. This is Doane University, a place where I first got my full-time job. That's Smith Hall, and I was hired to be the hall director / director of Greek life / summer challenge course coordinator / football coach, of course / anyone want to guess? Other duties as assigned. That's the answer. That's what we're looking for. And I was really worried about how I was going to get all this done. And I remember venting these fears to my supervisor, Ross, during our first one-on-one. And there was nothing but silence for a good solid minute. And then Ross took a sheet of paper, slid it across the desk. It had 10 bullet points on it, nothing else. He said, "Paul, these are the tasks I expect you to accomplish by the end of the year. You can go about getting them done any way you want. I hired you because you have the talent and the ability not only to achieve these tasks, but exceed the expectations. Do it your way. I have complete faith in your ability." That was one of the best years I ever had professionally. I had so much fun. But if we progress 10 years later, I have now moved to Michigan. I'm working at a small college, and what happens in Michigan a lot is it snows, right? And the night that it really snowed, I was also advising the campus activities board, and we had a general meeting. I remember going to my boss and saying, "Listen, it's terrible outside. My 15-minute drive is going to turn to at least 45 minutes. Can I not be there? Can I call in?" And her answer was no. "If they don't cancel the meeting, we need you to be there so that we don't ruffle any feathers with the administration." I said a few words under my breath. I went to the meeting, and as soon as I walked in the room, I noticed that Blake wasn't there. He was our president. Before I could ask where he was, one of the students pulled a cell phone from their pocket. She walked up to the front of the room and she said, "Hey, everybody, Blake lives 40 minutes away. We all know that. Well, he left campus early, and he's going to be running the meeting virtually today." And for the next 60 minutes, I watched as Blake ran the entire meeting as nothing more than a talking head on a phone at the front of the classroom. It was different, but he got the job done. After that meeting, I started doing a lot of thinking. You ever think about how your job should be versus the way it really is? I had a lot of those thoughts on my mind that day. And it was fueled by the fact that I was in the literature review phase of my dissertation at Michigan State University. Go Green. Thank you very much. And that's when I came across a term that fully encapsulates everything I believe human resources and organizational performance needs to be, and in my opinion is the future of where we need to go if we want to be successful. And that term is the results-oriented work environment, ROWE. So what is ROWE? In a nutshell, ROWE basically says we're going to define what matters most to the position. We're going to define the tasks and the assignments that mean the most, and then we are going to hire talented people to go in and accomplish these tasks, and we're going to give them all the training and the resources we need for them to be successful at these tasks, and once that is all accomplished, we turn them loose. We let talented people do talented things. We don't focus on their physical location. We let them build their own schedules. We give them complete adult, we give them permission to be adults and to be superstars. ROWE gives employees 100% autonomy on how they construct their work, but also holds them 100% accountable to how what needs to be done. What matters most is the results. That's it. And why is that important? Well, let's be honest. The world's a little different. And you got to understand that the office culture, the 9 to 5 culture that we know, or in student affairs, it's like the 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. culture some days, right? That culture comes out of a manufacturing mentality, the industrial age, right? It's back when we were building cars and canned soup, right? And from the office culture perspective, those that wrote the policies were writing them at a time when you only needed one income for a family, and to be honest, they were affluent. They didn't have to worry about things like childcare, disability, elder care. The world was fairly simple. Also, they didn't have these things. And technology has changed how we view our work and our life and what really needs to be done. But the problem is that a lot of human resource cultures and policies are still focused more on having employees avoid doing the wrong thing or catching them doing the wrong thing versus empowering them to do the right thing and perform at their maximum potential. So we need to have a shift. So how do we do that, right, Paul? That's the whole thing. I was supposed to give you a couple, get my tuition's worth here. Okay, so here are 3 simple questions I want you to think about when we're talking about implementing a results-oriented mentality in your workplace. Question number 1, what are your deliverables? Now, to some of you, this is probably an extremely dirty word because it's very consulting business-ish-y, okay? But at the heart of it, you have to determine what is it you're really supposed to do. If you were to slide a blank sheet of paper with a few bullet points to someone across the desk when they were determining if your job has value, if it adds value to the university, what would those deliverables be? And I'm going to give you a rule when you're going through this exercise. You cannot use to be visible to students as a deliverable. It's not that that's not important at times, but if that's what you're coaching a lot of your deliverables in, you're probably missing the point of what your job is supposed to be doing. So what are your deliverables? Question 2, are you willing to rethink the work you do? ROWE is a shift in how things get done for a lot of our campuses, which means when we're shifting how we're doing it, we're naturally going to shift what's going to be happening. But the question is, in rethinking that work, do you have the courage to sit across from your supervisor or as a manager, bring your team in and really talk about the nature of your work, what matters, what needs to be changed, and honestly, being okay with multiple points and multiple pathways to the same destination? Come on. Haven't you ever sat in a room in a meeting and thought, this should have just been an email? Have you ever been part of a committee or some other commitment and you think, this does nothing for my job, this does nothing to add value to the campus, to the students? If we can't rethink it, do we really need to be doing it? That second question really helps you dig at those answers. But once you find them and you have a system, the third question is, can you try the change for 30 days? Can you run the experiment? Because ROWE is sticky. It's not easy. It's not going to come naturally, but because it's results-oriented, it requires feedback, and that feedback can only occur if you're willing to go out and try it. And after 30 days or whenever, you come back to the table and you say, listen, what went right? What didn't go right? What do we need to change? How can we keep evolving this new way of working and thinking about how we're doing things? Those are your 3 questions. And if you want a higher ed example of how this could work, I'll give you one. I want to do a very formal assessment right now. Make a lot of noise if you have volunteered for a NASPA committee, a KC, been sort of virtually involved in some part of this association. Make some noise. NASPA and associations like this are ROWE-ish by nature. You have, most of the time, minimal amount of meetings. ROWE hates meetings, by the way. That's why I love it so much. All right, minimal amount of meetings. You have your task. You have your objectives. You find the people who can fill those objectives. You put trust in them that they're going to get it done. And guess what? At some point, it gets done, and you come and you have fantastic events like you have here today. It works, and we're already doing it. So why not try it on your campus? I want to close with a story about, other than my wife, my most favorite person in the world, and that's my cousin Sal. Now, Sal is who I affectionately refer to often as my corporate cousin. He, 5 years ago, was the VP at a very major multinational accounting firm. And Sal and I, aside from hijinks and avoiding trouble, for our whole lives, we've always talked about work, our careers, and always compared notes and just bounced ideas off each other. And we would do this in the most Canadian place on earth, the Tim Hortons coffee shop. And one day, 5 years ago, we're sitting across from each other. I'm chomping on a Boston cream. And Sal says, "The doctor says I have multiple sclerosis." And me being the super sensitive guy I am, fired back with, "What's that going to do for your job?" And here's the crazy part. Sal didn't blink. He said, "I'm not as worried about that." He said, "I've been performing really well all these years, and I know what needs to be done, and my team knows what to expect of me. I know what to expect of them. And I had a really good, open, honest conversation with my partners. And what they said is, we're going to trust you to get it done. They said, we're going to work with you and give you all the resources you need so you can be successful professionally and personally. And we know that with your situation, things might change, but we're okay to change with you and let it evolve." 5 years later, Sal's a junior partner, and he runs his division almost exclusively from his house. His teammates, they have autonomy to do what they need. Whether they don't want to come in because it's snowing, or maybe they have a medical condition, or maybe they just feel it's not the day to be most effective. He trusts in their talent and their ability. And that, I think, is sometimes the difference between a low-performing organization and a high-performance organization. Now, throughout the course of this talk, I've used the word different and difference quite a few times, and I've done that intentionally. Because if there's one group of people who understand the value of difference and diversity, it is this group right here. This conference is filled with that theme. You can go to workshops and sessions on all sorts of differences, right? Differences in ability, in race, in ethnicity, in gender, in sexuality. And I submit to you, it's time we start having serious conversations about honoring differences in how work is done. To meet employees where they are, and to utilize their experiences and their abilities to maximize their performance and give back and give the students the best experience they can on a campus. So I challenge you when you leave here today to define your deliverables, to rethink how your work can be done in a more effective and liberating way, and then to run that experiment for 30 days, if not more. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult at first sometimes. It's going to feel different. But once you get it up and running, I guarantee you, it's going to feel glorious.